Hello, my name is Riley. I decided to do my final term project on the concept of the pursuit of happiness, which we have all read and loved the entire semester. So I want to start from the beginning and then progress to where we are now in American society. In the beginning, we had the Pilgrims coming over. In addition to them seeking religious freedom, they also just wanted freedom in general because the British government was very overbearing and wanted to have control over every aspect of their lives and wouldn't allow them to do things in the way they wished them to, even if it wasn't going to cause the community or the country any harm. They just wanted to have control over all the citizens. So, in order to escape that, they found their way to America, technically moving in to the Indians' territory, which we never really give credit to, and we kind of stole their land. We were immigrants. So we came over and we decided that we would establish a society. The trip over was very difficult. Many people died. Very many got sick. And when they arrived to America, it was winter. So the conditions were not improving for them. And it was very hard for them all to keep a very good mindset. But keeping them motivated was their wish to pursue their own happiness in a way that also allowed them to be free. So once the spring came, they were able to cultivate the land and plant things to be able to survive off of, and they got to see all the beautiful foliage. And that really made them know that they didn't make this trek in vain, that they made it and that they could see that their purpose would come to fruition in sight. Then later on down the road, we have the Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson being one of the writers. We all know the phrase, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. But although while that was a great concept, it was already set up in the beginning to not be all men. It was just to be men, white men, basically. It gave slaves no rights. Jefferson himself still owned 200 slaves. He was one of the largest slave owners in the United States, while still preaching that everyone should have freedom to do as they please, but still not giving it to all people. So then I would like to, so now our view on immigrants, we do not have a very high view of them. We do not like them. Right now we're all hearing still about how let's build that wall because we don't want immigrants to come into our country, but it wasn't our country to begin with. We were also immigrants. So you would think that we would be treating them with respect. However, we are not. For them, they find employment, but they are paid lower wages than any person who was born in America. They are treated poorly by society. People make fun of them and think of them as lesser people. Lots of people decide to adopt racist ideas about immigrants and assume that they are all criminals. So then that we should all hate them and they have no rights. Our judicial system, if there is an immigrant who is illegal, they have no rights to be defended by an attorney. So we don't even give them a right to our judicial system. And they've come over for this promise of hope, which is what the Pilgrims originally came over after. This promise of hope that we could have a better life, raise our families in a better environment, give them things that we weren't able to have. And that is what these people wish to have. They want to have that for their families. They do not have the same opportunities in the countries that they come from. Many of them are escaping places where people are murdered by either civilians or the government. They're in very much harm in their native countries, and they are trying to build a better life. And when they get here, they are treated poorly for trying to do better for themselves, which is what we're all trying to do. And then in the event that they are illegal and they get, detained and deported, the places where they are detained, they are treated terribly. There are so many accounts of sexual abuse, physical abuse, them being starved, not given water, some of them locked in cages. And that is a disgusting way to treat a people that have done nothing wrong besides be from somewhere else and decide to come here. in order to better their lives and give their family a better lives. Some of them are even being deported when they are here legally or in the process of legalization. They have all of their papers. ICE is doing raids constantly. Used to, those people only had jurisdiction around the border, but now we're seeing that people all over the country's homes are being raided where ICE agents believe that illegal immigrants are living. And that is, to me, seems like a constitutional, that we're not holding up our Constitution to give people rights if we're having their homes barged into. And at the border also, children are being separated from their families, so they're in a foreign country where they don't speak the language, and they are being asked questions by people who don't speak their language, and it is impossible to break. No one is trying to understand the other side, and the people who are from a different country and our children have no knowledge of the language, and they try to make them use computers to like reconnect the families. All of the families were separated, and it must be terrifying to be in a foreign country and be pulled away from your parents and be locked into a cage and be around a bunch of people you don't know that are speaking things and not in a way that you can't understand. So I feel like today in America, we are really trying to take away the pursuit of happiness still for certain people. Just like Jefferson thought that white males deserve to be able to have all the opportunity in the world, but slaves were not considered to be men, they were considered property. It seems as if we are still today treating immigrants in that fashion and trying to make them do jobs that we don't want to do, and we don't want to give them respect, and we treat them as if they're subhuman. And I don't think that that is a good way for our society to conduct itself optimally. If we are a government that is supposed to be by the people and for the people, then we need to include all people in it. And I think having a community attitude of it instead of an individualistic attitude would be the best way to go about it, because then we're thinking outside of ourselves and thinking as ourselves for a whole. And if we were doing that more often instead of focusing on things that divide us, we could instead focus on things that unite us and take a stance and make a change for things that we are unhappy with about this country, because that is written to be our right. So we should be allowed to execute it.